Lumberjacks is sponsored by Echo, only professional grade with 5-year warranty. Crown, protect, maintain, save. Dickies, quality workwear since 1922. Yamaha, rev your heart.
We're here in Five Islands Park in the shores of the Bay of Fundy, just about an hour outside of Truro, Nova Scotia, for the exciting conclusion of the second annual Nova Scotia Lumberjack Championships. Hi, I'm Bill D with my co-host, Lumberjack sport analyst Rod Cumberland. Rod, this week we're covering a couple different events, the hot saw and the underhand chop.
Underhand chop, man, that's getting more and more exciting all the time in the East. Trevor Schofield, Berlin Nickerson, big, strong guys that swing a mean axe. We have Marcel Dupuis, reigning national champion right now. The Cumberland boys, all kinds of excitement in that. It'd be hard to pick a winner right now.
Now, just about every lumberjack competition you go to, they end with the hot saw. Why? Because it's so exciting and spectacular to watch. The live audience loves it. It's also fantastic on TV.
And of course, the guys in the East are actually even pooling their money to buy hot saws. There's all kinds of new saws out there right now. We have the world record holder Paul Woodland here. Marcel Dupuis is a big saw. Ken Hiltz, who builds them. Scott Reed, who builds them. Last show, Scott Reed's saw blew up. There was flames everywhere. So it's going to be a great conclusion to this week's event.
Well, flames everywhere is always great for TV, but not so great for the competitor and the saw owner. There is the championship trophy. Marcel Dupuis was the winner in 2016. This is the second annual Nova Scotia Lumberjack Championships. Marcel still has a chance at catching Nathan Cumberland, Jeff Larkin, Ben Cumberland still in the race, and we are headed into the last few events. We're in the parking lot of the Cat Shack in downtown Truro, Nova Scotia, and we are moving into the underhand chop. We are going to be showing you the top 3 heats. The first heat, a couple of Nova Scotia boys, Trevor Schofield taking on Berlin Nickerson in his first heat.
And we've seen these guys paired up before. They're actually a good pairing. They're both big and strong. They're just got their axes out, dusted them off after a few years in hiatus raising some young children. So they're back at things here in the underhand chop. And as we get underway, they're chopping 12 inches of round aspen.
You know, a few minutes ago, Rod, we were talking about the shoes these guys wear. You see Berlin Nickerson there wearing some soft-soled shoes. They do have chainmail leggings underneath their shoes and all the way up to the bottom of their knees, so that in case of any kind of glance. And Berlin Nickerson falls off there as he makes his turn over the backside.
Yeah, we've had rain off and on all day intermittently, and of course everything's wet, a little bit slippery. Berlin's right back in with, though it cost him a second or two, but he's getting into the small wood now. He's getting ready to finish this off.
Still a couple more chips there for Trevor Schofield, and look at the sloppy mess on Berlin Nickerson. He dries things off. 32.30, the time to beat after the first heat of the underhand chop. Obviously, speed, strength, and accuracy are keys when you're chopping there. You're hitting that wood pretty hard because you were stroke for stroke with Trevor all the way through there. You were just, the axe was sinking more, pounding the wood a little bit more. Just tell me about the importance of strength.
Yeah, Trevor's always been a little bit more of a speed chopper than myself. I guess I've always focused more on a little more of the strength. I guess our accuracy would be about the same. Just today my axe was sinking a bit further, I guess, so.
Well, you can see in Berlin's left-hand side there, a bit of a sloppy mess, and people refer to that as a staircase as well. And I know, Rod, you mentioned that guys are chopping wood more than once, which is something they don't need to do. This next heat, heat number 2, Ben Cumberland taking on George Williams.
Ben right out of the gates fast, and a big slab off the side of his block. That's usually indicative of a really soft log here, and Ben's making quick work of the front. George Williams, this is his forte event, underhand chopping, but he looks like he's drawing a little bit tougher block. He's having a hard time getting through the first side.
A couple of different styles in turning there. Ben takes a 3-step over the backside, and George Williams takes a big hop around to the backside.
And Ben's slowing down here now. Looks like George may catch him up here. Ben gets into the hard part of his block, but he's off now. Sets a new time to beat with a 25.1.
Oh, it's going to be tough to beat with younger brother Nathan coming in last heat. So what was your plan going into that block? I didn't count your strokes on the front side. You had 12 on the backside, and did you stick to your plan?
More or less. Nathan and I were chatting about patterns and stuff and how many swings, and watching the guys go before us, we realized it was a bit harder, so I really just focused on making sure I cut it to halfway and then switched.
And typically in lumberjack sports and a lot of different sports, you save the best for the last heat. Marcel Dupuis taking on Nathan Cumberland, time to beat 24.14 here in the underhand chop.
And these guys are the top of their game in the underhand chop. Marcel Dupuis holds a Canadian record right now, but Nathan Cumberland, man, he is on fire. He took 3 swings to get into that. Both these blocks slab, so we've got good wood. This should be fast.
A couple of drivers for both of them. They make the turn at the exact same time, stroke for stroke on their backsides. A couple more chips, and here they are going to drive things off.
Oh, Nathan's axe is sticking at a critical time. He now has a knot. Oh, that's What's going to slow him down as he get ready? And it looks like Nathan just edges out Marcel Dupuis to win the underhand chop.
I mean, that was a fantastic race with Marcel there. You guys were stroke for stroke. Came off a half a stroke ahead of Marcel, but a win is a win, right?
Yeah, it was kind of a messy chop. I need to spend more time practicing underhand. When I get swinging really fast, I lose my lines, and when you lose your lines, it really costs you a lot of time because you're cutting wood that you've already cut, and it's just not a pretty chop, but I'll take it.
Well, with only a few events still to come, Nathan Cumberland increases his lead in the overall standings over Marcel by edging him out in the underhand chop.
Good Life Fitness is Canada's largest fitness company with over 350 locations from coast to coast. In Atlantic Canada, we have 30 alone, including the one here in Truro with over 1,000 members and 24-hour access. We also believe in fitness for everybody as a mission statement, which is why we're more than happy to sponsor an event like this, where you get all forms of fitness, whether it be the competitors outdoors with an axe or a saw, or supplementing their workouts in one of our locations with some of our strength training or cardio classes.
And many thanks to Good Life Fitness for getting involved here with Ryan McIntyre in the second annual Nova Scotia Lumberjack Championships. We're heading into the women's stock style. We're going to be showing you the top two heats. Kelly Bonus taking on Jesse Swinemer in heat number 1.
Well, things are getting wet here in Truro as they get set to run these CS600 Echo chainsaws, and they're off and going in this first heat of the Echo chainsaw. And they're neck to neck right now going down through these blocks. Looks like it's going to be Kelly Bonus getting her off first.
And of course, they have to take 2 cuts, 1 down cut, 1 up cut, all within 4 inches. It's going to be really close. And Jesse Swinemer wins the first heat of the stock saw with a 13.30 and a big smile from Jesse. That was a come from behind victory there. You were second place there against Kelly going into the second cut. Just tell me about your second cut going up.
Yeah, I noticed that I was a little behind, so I just accommodated for that by switching my angle a little so it wasn't so steep. And I had a lot of pressure on the saw, so I just eased off so that it could let it do its own thing and cut through the wood better.
Perfect, thanks for your time.
No problem.
And of course, we're watching the top 2 heats here. Earlier in the day, all the women competitors participated in the Echo Stock Saw in the preliminaries. We are watching the top 2 heats. This is the last heat. Caitlin Carroll taking on Janet Walker.
Janet Walker loves a stock saw. She's usually in first or second place in this. She usually beats a lot of the guys at this event. And here we go, Caitlin Carroll with her hands full, taking on Janet Walker. But looks like Caitlin is going to be the first one to get her cookie on the ground.
Caitlin really quick to the wood on the right-hand side. She's almost through her cut right now. And Caitlin Carroll wins the heat over Janet Walker with a 12.18. Janet's going to be disappointed with that one. Pretty flawless. Now, you've been working with Echo for a couple of years now, specifically using the saws. Are you getting better and better at it? Because I just saw no mistakes there.
I certainly, the last 2 runs that I've had with the Echo saws have been a lot better than what they have. You kind of, after a while, you figure out how to listen to the saw and run it the way it should be run rather than what some of us have done in the past.
Are you pretty happy with that? Could you have gone faster? Did you want to take a risk and pressing the saw a little bit harder?
I did off the start in my first cut. I could definitely hear it in the saw that I was kind of revving it out a little bit too much, pushing a bit too late, so then I eased up on it and it seemed to cut a lot better.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Well, that was pretty much a flawless cut there for Caitlin Carroll, good enough for second place. In an earlier heat, Cameron Finley actually won the women's stock saw with an 11.86.
Closed captioning is brought to you by 1867 Confederation Log and Timber Frame, Canada's leader in log and timber frame homes since 1979. This is living.
Just a couple events here to come in the second annual Nova Scotia Lumberjack Championships in Truro. This first heat of the hot saw, the always exciting hot saw, Ryan McIntyre taking on Big Ben Cumberland.
Well, with the conditions today, anything could go wrong because, of course, it's wet and rainy out. Lots of moisture in the air. That changes how these saws run. Ben gets this started. Oh, Ryan McIntyre does not get his going. Ben Cumberland cuts out his first cookie.
And as Ryan struggles, Ben is making a great comeback in recovery there. He's on his way through his third cut. Oh, and he bogs down the saw and the engine stops. He's going to try and restart it for the last couple of inches.
Way too much weight on that third cookie, and of course he stalls the saw in the cut. He's got to get this thing going. He needs a time. He needs 3 discs on the ground, and if he can get the thing started, he may be able to get a time.
Well, typically in the hot saw, there's a lot of DQs, so you always try and make sure you finish your cut, get 3 cuts on the deck. He shakes his head. He's not going to be happy with that. Nonetheless, he records a 29.07. Let's talk about your first cut first. What happened there?
Oh, I just went into the wood too fast, didn't have it set straight, and as I got about halfway or a third through the log, the saw just cut out through the cookie.
Well, we talk about it all the time. It's important to get 3 full discs on the deck, record a time, regardless of the time. You still could finish in the money because it's an unpredictable sport. You can get a lot of DQs, still finish top 5.
You're right, Bill. The other thing that's happening here in the Maritimes right now is everybody's shearing saws. So there's 3 or 4 saws here today. They're being sheared by 2 competitors. Anything can happen. Oh, look at that. Berlin Nickerson, hard time getting a saw going. Nathan Cumberland's well into his cut, doing a great job here, getting 3 on the deck. And Nathan Cumberland sets a new time to beat with a time of 7.9 seconds.
Oh, that's going to be a tough one to beat with only 2 heats still to come on the hot saw. I think one of the keys to hot saw, I've been watching a long time, if you get a nice, good, clean, thin first cut, gives you a whole lot of confidence in the next 2 because you got a little more room, right?
Yeah, that's right. A lot of people don't realize it, but we actually have a 6-inch line that goes the whole way around that log, so we have to get all 3 cuts within 6 inches, and that bar, by the time all 3 cuts are gone, it takes 1 inch of wood. So my first cut was really thin. I actually thought I might have cut out, but my brother had gone before me, and the saw was cutting well, and I just wanted to put 3 good cuts on the deck. So.
Well, as I mentioned, it's going to be a tough time to beat with only 2 heats to go. Trevor Schofield and Scott Reed coming up. Scott Reed, one of the saw manufacturers here in Truro.
Remember at the start of the show, we said Scott Reed's saw blew up at the last show, so of course he's had to do a little bit of work in the garage, making sure this saw's going to run here. Trevor Schofield's running a saw that's already been ran.
Well, it's Scott Reed for the 3rd heat in a row. Somebody couldn't get their saw started. Last heat was Berlin Nickerson. This heat is Scott Reed. Trevor Schofield puts 3 in the deck with a fantastic time of 7.50.
Oh, man, and troubles continue for Scotty Reed.
You made it look easy, Trevor. You see some guys struggling and finicking around and can't get their saw started, cutting out, breaking discs. How easy is it?
I actually just bought the saw. It's the first time I've ever run it in competition. I did a bunch of practice in the last few days, and I was pretty comfortable with it, and went good for me today.
Well, this is the final heat coming up. Marcel Dupuis taking on Paul Woodland. We've had 3 heats so far. Each heat has seen one guy DNF. This next heat, with the time to beat is 7.50, is Marcel taking on Paul.
Well, Paul Woodland recently inducted into the Maritime Lumberjack Hall of Fame. He's also a world record holder in this event, so slim chance of something going on with Paul Woodland. But Marcel Dupuis, he's really been turning it on lately in the hot saw.
And there goes the gun. A good clean start by Marcel. Not sure what's happening with Paul. Some kind of mechanical difficulties. Marcel Dupuis puts 3 in the deck with a 5.39, and he wins the hot saw here in Nova Scotia. Show's just about to end here. It's pouring rain. Just tell me quickly what happened to your saw.
Well, in the warm-up, the throttle linkies let go, I guess, and only rev up a quarter of a throttle.
And you were all gunned up and ready to go to impress the world here, but going in, you were pretty confident in something you just can't control, right?
Yeah, exactly right, yeah. I got the strongest motor here by far, so that's the game.
Well, the hot saw is a tough game, and in damp conditions, a lot of humidity in the air, it makes it even tougher. Only 3 guys breaking the 10-second mark. Marcel winning with a 5.39.
Power on and on. Echo.
All types of chain will need frequent adjustment. To maintain optimal performance and safe operation, it's integral that your chain is tensioned properly. The first thing you're going to want to do is make sure you've got a pair of gloves on. Even a very dull chain will be extremely sharp. This is a perfect example of a poorly adjusted chain that could end up in a very dangerous situation if it continues to be used. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to loosen off your guide bar cover nuts, and then reach down and lift up on the guide bar. Take your screwdriver and tighten up the tensioner on the side of this chainsaw. Tighten down your adjuster screw just until the chain touches the bottom of the guide bar. Your chainsaw chain may need frequent adjustments throughout the day. It's a great idea to make sure you take the proper tools with you so that you can make those adjustments. Proper tension can be done quickly and efficiently out in the field. Get you through your day quickly and as well safely.
Here we are at the 2nd annual Nova Scotia Lumberjack Championships in the parking lot of the Cat Shack, and we are about to wrap things up here with the water boil. Always the last event at any competition, and it makes it even more exciting and more difficult for the competitors when there's a driving rain.
And of course, the guys have to do a lot of other strategic maneuvers here, trying to keep that block dry, try to find a dry place that they can actually start their fire. So there's all kinds of other hurdles that these guys have to overcome. And of course, it's a tight race here for the overall between Marcel and Nathan, so they have that added pressure. As you see Marcel getting set to go.
Hi, Bill Diva. You're my superhero rock star. I love lumberjacks.
Well, thanks for the kudos from Scott Reed there. He's not showing a whole lot of pressure, being one of the favorites in the water boil. Him and his partner, Caitlin Carroll, probably one of the teams to beat with a few others.
Yeah, and the few others are actually teams that Scotty has coached in the kettle boil event. So lots of good pairs here, all getting set to go in the kettle boil. Darren Hudson, of course, from the Timber Lounge, he's getting set to go in the kettle boil.
Now, the rules are each pair of competitors are equipped with a block of dried cedar, an axe, some matches, and of course a tin of soapy water. Now, Rod, what are the rules for striking these matches? What instruments, rocks, axes, teeth, zippers, what are they allowed to strike the matches on?
Well, if you're young enough, you still have your teeth, you could use those, but there's actually no rule stating what you can and cannot use other than the matchbox itself.
No, especially in the wet conditions here, and of course the smoky conditions and the fire conditions that are about to take place. You see a lot of people wearing a variety of different things, including the fire high-vis coveralls that Morgan Reed and Graham Green are wearing.
Yeah, and I think they got those fighting fire out west. Makes them look intimidating to the other pairs, but I don't think too many teams here are going to be intimidated by that as they get down, starting to make their shavings, of course. Everybody's got to get some small tinder to start their fire, and this is why where the shavings come in.
Nice big shavings there by a team of Berlin Nickerson and Darren Hudson to get started. And you see a couple of guys here getting these shavings that we call kind of curls. They're big curls of shavings. I know that's one of your strategies, Rod.
You bet. Get a lot of shavings underneath the can because that's where you need most of your heat.
And you see the team of Roggeveen and Green there. They've got the extension on the handle. I know that's another one of your strategies. I guess they're paying attention to you, where you can use two hands to get your shavings as you shave the block.
Well, it's funny to see all the things that Scotty and I have coached these young fellas at before. There's lots of UMB competitors here, lots of graduate NSAC competitors here.
Team of Janet Walker and Kelly Bonus really having a hard time getting things going. There's a big pile of shavings. Getting a lot of shavings, getting a lot of heat under the can is certainly the key. Then you got to build around it. Janet Walker still not getting a fire going.
And of course, Marcel Dupuis, we're watching him and Paul right now. They're also in the running for the overall, so they need a fire going really quickly as we see a match trying to get lit here on a wet axe, not working very well at all.
That's Tess Billings and her partner. There's another picture of Scott Reed and Caitlin Carroll. They're struggling. Again, the damp conditions, the wood probably attracting a little bit of moisture while it's sitting there throughout the course of the day. Some teams are even wearing safety gloves.
As a good friend of mine always says, conditions like this separate the contenders from the pretenders, and we're seeing who can actually boil a kettle here in these extreme conditions.
Now, we just saw a team there. They had a huge fire built, but not a whole lot of flame, not a whole lot of smoke. But right now, you want to. This is Ryan McIntyre and Dave Patrickin. They've used all their wood at this point. Now they just got to add a little bit of oxygen, trying to get it burn hotter and burn faster.
So in these wet conditions, of course, things aren't taking off quite as quickly as you need them to. So the guys have to be careful to make sure they don't go too fast, bring the fire along slowly so that things catch and you get a lot of heat going.
Well, we're just coming over the 2-minute barrier. There's the Cumberland brothers. Looks like they got a good fire just started. Ben is trying to add a little bit of oxygen. Nathan's still doing a little bit of building, adding as much wood to the fire as possible. Then he's going to try and close things in so the heat doesn't escape.
In conditions like this, a tricky thing for competitors to know is when to get down and start putting the oxygen to it, because you don't want to blow too hard so that you blow your fire out. So you need to leave it alone so it actually does build up a little bit of heat before you really start putting a flame to it. There you go. Look at that. Ryan and Dave doing a great job here. And look at Berlin and Darren there. It looks like they're getting close to the end.
Darren Hudson's doing nothing but blowing right now. Berlin's going to put the last few pieces on the wood. Looks like Dupuis and Woodland are struggling a little bit. They got their fire built, but they've got no flame.
That's going to be unfortunate for Marcel. He needs these points for the overall, but man, the things are getting down to the final brushstrokes now as these fires are getting hotter and hotter. It's not going to be long now.
Well, we're creeping up on the 3-minute mark right now. This is about the time when the water is going to start boiling over. It's going to be a photo finish. There's a lot of teams right close to boiling the water.
And at this stage of the game, all you've got left to do is sit back and put the oxygen to it. Some people are using their breaths, some people are using hats. We're getting down to the final brushstrokes here as we approach the 3-minute mark.
And you don't want to burn yourself on fire. We've seen that happen over the years. And there are the winners in the center of the yard there with Darren Hudson and Berlin Nickerson coming into 3:04 and winning the water boil. Okay, hold on a second here. Yesterday, Berlin Nickerson's looking for a partner. He found you. Tell me the story there.
Well, he didn't know I was available, you know, and like, of course, we're the Magic team, but man, we met up here today, and Berlin's like, you're doing the water boil with me, right? You got a partner, right? It's me. Oh, man, I'm glad I had this man. He had the plan, folks. He had it all figured out. If it wasn't for Berlin Nickerson right here, we wouldn't have won that. It was my first kettle boil win ever.
Okay, now hold on a second here. You're talking about changing the plan midway, or you're stuck with the original plan?
I kind of had plan A, B, and C. We went to B, and then I switched to A. So A worked.
A1.
Can you just define A for me?
Well, you know, he wanted to make small shavings, really nice fine ones to get that a little heat going, big flame, big spark, and then put on some bigger fuel, and then into the pencil sticks. Oh, wait a second. Oh, man, we still got some fire. Better put that away. Oh, that was incredible. Hot stuff right here in Truro, Nova Scotia.
Thanks, guys.
Lumberjacks, get on it.
Well, in an event that typically takes between 2 and 3 minutes for the first place team, all the times in this event here in the damp weather conditions were over 3 minutes. The winners, Darren Hudson and Berlin Nickerson, coming in with a 3.04. They take first place.
And the crown pivotal point today focuses on Captain Canada Ben Cumberland. Has all kinds of trouble in the hot saw event, cuts out on his first disc and then stalls a saw on his third.
And the overall standings are now over here at the second annual Nova Scotia Lumberjack Championships. In the end, it was really a two-horse race. Marcel Dupuis, Nathan Cumberland, always battling it out in all the competitions here in the Maritimes.
The Lumberjacks of the day today in the women's division, Caitlin Carroll from Truro, Nova Scotia. This is her hometown. She takes first place in the underhanded single buck and a second place in the stock saw, en route to a first place finish. And our Lumberjack of the day is from Keswick Ridge, New Brunswick, 21 years young, Nathan Cumberland, takes a first place finish in all 3 chopping events, amasses 475 points for the win.
Caitlin, solid day, good strong field of competitors here. Just pick a couple of things that you really did well.
Today I'm overly happy with my single buck for the first one this year. I think not having a big hang up at all and running the saw smooth was all I could ask for.
And you know, consistency is the name of the game in winning overall. You weren't very consistent in the axe throw, but tell me about the consistency for the rest of the day.
No, I'm very blessed today to be able to get the overall. My back's been bugging me over the last couple of weeks, and I wasn't sure how today would go, so very blessed. And yeah, just kind of a steady day, place and everything, and yeah, overall a good day.
Well, it takes a lot of work and a lot of people to make a successful competition. This is now in its second annual, and you can see a lot of logos on this screen of people getting involved in this competition. Another successful event, second annual Nova Scotia Lumberjack Championships here in the parking lot of the Cat Shack. Scott Reed and Ryan McIntyre deserve a whole lot of credit.
You bet. And talk about things growing in the East. 30 competitors plus here at this competition and a talent. Man, there's no end to the talent here in the East. Great job, great show today.
Come back again next week when it'll be time for Lumberjacks.
Lumberjacks is sponsored by Echo, only professional grade with 5-year warranty. Crown, protect, maintain, save. Dickies, quality workwear since 1922. Yamaha, rev your heart.
Lumberjacks TV, once the competitors get out their crosscut saws, their single buck saws, you hear us talking a lot about peg and rakers or cutters and rakers. When you look here at our crosscut saws, or single bucks, there's pegs and rakers. The pegs are the teeth, and the rakers are the one that actually chisels the wood out. So on our teeth are always offset, whether they're 2-peg, 3-peg, or 4-peg, and they're offset each way. So one tooth cuts the track down one side, the other tooth cuts the track down the other side. The raker comes along behind and chisels that out. That's what fills the gullet up. That's what cuts your wood.